to talk to us about headless commerce and how to prepare that for the holiday season. Nick, take it away.
Right on. Thank you so much for inviting me on the webinar. Cool. Let's chat a little bit about headless and how it can be beneficial to your business during holiday season. So as e-commerce continues to grow, it's predicted that e-commerce total holiday season sales will increase 11% year over year to like 206 billion. So with that, it's also to keep in mind, it's important to keep in mind where your traffic is coming from. And a lot of traffic is coming from mobile. In fact, mobile now I think mobile commerce now accounts for like over 50% of all e-commerce. So if you are a merchant that knows that the majority of your traffic, the majority of your sales are coming from mobile, it's really important to keep that in consideration when coming in to the holiday season. So how familiar are folks with headless commerce? And you can just go ahead and drop stuff in the chat is fine. But yeah, I'd be curious to get a sense of how much folks know about headless commerce. And I can also just jump right into the next slide into explaining what it is, because I would say that although headless commerce has become a very popular term during the past year or two, I think there's still like a lot of ambiguity around what headless commerce is and what it actually means. In the context of the e-commerce industry, generally what headless commerce means is to decouple the technologies that are used for the front end of your e-commerce site, the visual presentation layer, the part that the shoppers see and interact with from the e-commerce platform backend. So you can think of it like this. You have an e-commerce platform like Shopify, like BigCommerce, like Magento, Salesforce Commerce Cloud. And that's kind of like your body. And it's a little bit like your kind of like your corporate headquarters doing all of the back office organizational things for your business, inventory management, discount code management, product information management, all that stuff that's really unseen by the shopper. That's the body and the back end. Then you've got an API and SDK layer, and that's your neck, right? And then headless actually means that for the front end, nothing, right? Nothing's there. Hence headless. It's up to you to choose what technology or technologies you use for the front end, for the visual presentation layer, the part of the site that the shoppers see and interact with. And these two things are separate systems. Now, headless isn't one thing. There's no right or wrong way to approach headless commerce. It really depends on the needs of your business, right? So you can do something like, whatever, Shopify backend and a fully custom coded front end. You could do a Salesforce Commerce Cloud, backend, and then do a progressive web application style build with a headless content management system. You could use SAP Hybris and use, a big enterprise grade digital experience platform like Adobe AEM as the core technology for your front end. You could use BigCommerce and you could use WordPress on top. All of these are examples of what would be termed as headless architectures for e-commerce, and it's dependent on what the needs of your business are. Okay, so, all right, great, that's nice to know, but why, and we'll go to the next slide, why are brands even interested in headless, okay? So it usually falls into three categories. Certain forms of headless actually bring unparalleled site speed to e-commerce websites. This is progressive web application approach. And the reason why is it so important to basically have sites loading instantly? Well, when you make a site load perceptively instantly, your bounce rate really drops. Your overall e-commerce conversion rate increases and your average order value tends to increase as well. So especially during holiday season, you're running a ton of ads to your site, right? You want to be able to get the most from that traffic. And speed actually plays a lot into conversion rate. The second thing is it really empowers brands to create unique and differentiated experiences. You basically can use the technologies around headless, leveraging very powerful frameworks like React.js to create experiences that are more similar to like the Apple Store than to the default theme that you would get on your e-commerce website, right? So you can create experiences that are highly unique, not being constrained to something like a theme. And when you create that unique brand differentiation, again, that tends to be great against competitors and for conversion rate. The last reason why brands tend to adopt headless is to leverage more advanced content management systems and use cases. So think about it like this. A very popular example of that is a brand that maybe has gone international, and they now have content that is localized for 13 different countries, right? How are you going to manage all of that different content? E-commerce platforms are great for a lot of things, but they weren't necessarily built to be advanced content management systems. Going headless allows you to leverage some of that more advanced tooling, and also making all of this stuff codeless, right? And easy to use for marketers, merchandisers, not necessarily having to leverage all this different developer tooling to create these type of architectures. Go to the next slide. Cool. And so I would say that the reason why it's timely to bring this up in July, why are we talking about the holidays in July? Well, as we get closer to Black Friday, Cyber Monday in November, it's probably not a great time during November or even the back half of October that you really want to do a big overhaul on your tech stack architecture. So it's actually pretty good to consider it right now if you wanted to be able to leverage some of this technology for high season like Black Friday, Cyber Monday. Otherwise, don't worry if it's too much to get in before that. A great time to also make architectural changes is just after the holiday season. And if you're interested in learning more about headless or more about our technologies, you can visit getshogun.com/frontend and request a demo.
Awesome. Thanks, Nick. Really appreciate the walkthrough. I learned some things about headless commerce. Really great to hear from you. Next, we have Chad from Skubana, who's going to talk to us all about your operations for the holiday season. Chad?
Yeah, hi everybody. And Nick, that was awesome. It's great to see you virtually. It's been at least 2 years since we bumped into each other in the physical world.
Good to see you too.
So my name is Chad Rubin, a co-founder of Skubana. Skubana is an operation system to run and automate your entire backend operations. So we're sort of like the peanut butter to Shopify's jelly. If Shopify is everything on the in the real world above the earth, Skubana is everything below the earth that you can't see. So it means order management, inventory routing, etc. And so we're going to flow into, I only have a short time here, so we're going to flow into the first part of the presentation. I mean, I'm on the ground talking to brands all the time, and I'm seeing what's happening in real time. And so what brands are sharing with me is that they're having a hard time getting products out of Asia, which is mainly where most of them are importing from. And so what you're seeing is shipping costs are increasing due to supply and demand. You're seeing plastic resin costs increasing. You're seeing lumber costs increasing. It is my belief that actually inflation isn't coming. Inflation is actually here. And so the reason why we're talking about this is that you need to really prepare for what's going to happen for the holiday season. And it's a very different year than it was in 2020. And so, for example, all prices are going up. Shipping container costs are going up. Your cost of your product is going up. And so you need to figure out how to navigate what's going to happen. And so for me, my perspective is if you want to take a bigger risk, you want to get a little bit of a bigger reward, and inventory is everything when you're running a product-based business. So my perspective is to place larger POs now and to get ready, because it's likely that your competitors aren't doing that. And even though shipping rates could stay super high and they could be impacted with bottlenecking, you'll at least have product to sell through where maybe your competitors won't. And maybe you can even potentially price your product at a little higher price point. If you don't have any inventory, you can't sell anything, you can't convert that to cash, you can't make the profit. So I think that's a good way to start the conversation. If we can go to the next slide. We have a quick question for those that are joining. If you can just drop it into the poll. What is the greatest inhibitor to your profitability as you scale? So is it operational efficiencies? Is it technology? Is it visibilities into your supply chain? Is it where you're importing from? if you don't see your question there, just feel free to drop it in the chat as well. Would be great to see what people are sharing. And then in the next slide, once we finish this poll, and I don't know if we can share the results of the poll. Is there a way to see the results? Awesome. So it looks like we've got, well, 36% keeping technology overhead and expenses at a minimum. Okay, interesting. So people are trying to keep their costs down. That made sense. One last thing that I'm seeing anecdotally that I want to share before we get into the slide was this concept of shrinkflation that's happening in commerce. So even though prices are rising, what I'm seeing in real time with brands is that they're actually serving up less or lower quality or less of what their offering is and passing that same price on to the consumer to keep their margins intact. So imagine, for example, like a dozen eggs, you can't really change a dozen to 11 eggs and keep the price the same. However, if you're like a box of Cheerios as an example, you can actually slightly optimize your box size, make it a little bit smaller, shrink it, and still pass on that price to the consumer and they won't even know. Just a little nugget that I'm seeing as we're going into the holiday season. So the last slide that I wanted to share was around just tactics before we get into my bonus. So we go back one. The first one was just adjusting your forecast rules. So adjusting your rules year over year right now really doesn't matter, especially if you've got a COVID bump or in a COVID environment. So you can't really compare your sales numbers to 2020. So you need to really think strategically about the rules of how you forecast and thinking about also your competitors running out of stock if they can't get product or even limited shipping capacity that I spoke about on the previous slide. So that's one approach to thinking about getting into the holiday season to make sure you have the correct amount of inventory on hand. Two would be, if you have the inventory, now you got to figure out how to ship it. I'm a huge believer in actually having multi-warehouse functionality, having a warehouse in Mexico and in the United States, or having one in Hong Kong. So having more warehouses allow you to be nimble with your inventory to allow for orchestration, especially if perhaps there is a spike in COVID, you can easily actually transfer mix to a different warehouse location. So it gives you some redundancy. And so the idea is that just 2-day shipping isn't just for Amazon anymore. Actually, you can embrace 2-day shipping. You need to have the right software to make that happen. And then I would say just the last one is diversifying with your diamond SKU. So once you have the inventory, you've got your warehouses figured out, all right, you want to be omnipresent. And so here I just dropped a small nugget, right? So you can either not be on Amazon, and that's fine. You can actually figure out how to just take your hero SKU and drop it on Amazon so you're relevant. So for example, Away Luggage, right? Away Luggage chooses not to be on Amazon and everyone's advertising on their brand equity. So if you choose one SKU, let's just say it's a black piece of luggage, you can actually see what's happening, see all the data that's happening. You can also bring people that want something that's not a black luggage back to your website, number one. But two, if you're on Amazon, but you're not off of Amazon, meaning you're not maybe embracing your own shopping cart, I have a pro tip that I dropped here. If you take any URL that's on Shopify and you add this extension to it, the collections extension that you see on this slide, you can actually see their best-selling product on their website. I think it's a pretty cool hack. It's a pretty cool trick that not a lot of people know about, but it's one idea to essentially identify diamond SKUs for your competitor products, and also perhaps just understand what's selling off of Amazon if you're trying to get a sense of it. So just something I wanted to share there. I had a limited amount of time. I'm actually at the 5-minute mark. So the last slide here I want to share is a gift card. To get the gift, pick a time, and let's make it happen for a short demo of how I'm running my business using Skubana today, because I do have an e-commerce business with 2 different warehouses. In fact, I have more than 2 different warehouses. And so if you use this link down below, we'll give you a $50 gift card, rock and roll. You can spend it any way you see fit.
And for those of you who didn't see it, it's also in the chat if you want to open up that link. Thanks, Chad,
Awesome.
so much.
Yeah.
We appreciate your time. Super interesting, your thoughts on COVID and inventory during these times. Thank you so much for joining. Next, we have Amit from Omnisend, who's going to talk to us all about automation. Amit, off to you.
Thanks, Kelsey. And thanks everyone for attending. A lot of great insights being shared today from the partners on this panel. So as Kelsey said, I am with OmniSend. For those of you who are not familiar with OmniSend, we are an omni-channel marketing automation platform that helps e-commerce retailers utilize email, SMS, web push notification, build Facebook custom audiences and Google customer match all within the platform. And what I wanted to share with you guys today is sort of what we saw in 2020 and some tips that we can provide you guys for 2021 based off the data that we saw. So I think for everyone, I think if we looked at last year at this time, COVID-19 had pushed consumers towards digital buying and also prodded merchants to optimize their online stores, improve their shopping experiences, and really hone in on their marketing efforts. And I think the same online competition that merchants saw in 2020, I think they're going to see more in 2021 when it's all said and done. So the other thing as well is that marketers will also have to contend with a new wrench that just recently came out in our industry, and that's thanks to Apple. I'm not quite sure how many of the attendees are aware of the iOS 15 update that's supposed to arrive sometime in the fall, but it will effectively disqualify email open rates as a reliable metric that so many of our businesses have really relied upon. So thus, it's really extremely important, and from what we see, to focus on channels and strategies that can help engage your customers in this holiday season. And I'll go a little bit more in depth of what the iOS 15 update is, so it's not like a shock to you guys and you can sort of see what we're seeing there. So I think the first tip is obviously to capitalize on early shoppers and really start early. So if we looked at last year in 2020, you notice that Amazon actually set the tone by moving Prime Day to October than when previously in June. So I think what we saw in 2020 is that really influenced stores like Target and Macy's and other big box retailers to launch big holiday sales around that time. So merchants, I think, also recognize the demand to limit shopping crowds and also preventing shipping bottlenecks that I think we all saw in 2020. So based on these factors, a lot of merchants that we've seen have started to push holiday sales a little bit earlier. So I don't think anyone can say that if earlier months, like specifically October, will upstage November as the official start of the holiday season. But I think we all can speak to ourselves on our own personal level. We all know one person who's keen on checking off their gift list way before Halloween strikes, as one would say. So I think our advice is don't wait for those key dates like Black Friday or Cyber Monday to launch your promotion. So I think one tip I would say when starting early is if your shop is offering discounts, for example, maybe give serious thoughts on the timing of it. Is it best to hold the great deals until the Cyber Week? Maybe you can test those out earlier in October if you'd like, or even September. I think also you want to determine what channels you'll use to communicate. So I think the more is better approach is, so based off a stat that we saw, about 76% of customers prefer different channels depending on the context of the messaging. Email still predominantly number one, but SMS, push notification are seeing tremendous value as a channel as well for retailers to use. I would also say plan your promotional holiday schedule. It's never too early for that. I think you should also account for incentives that you're trying to offer your customers. So define any teasers or flash sales that are aimed to keep your customers hooked throughout November, and throwing the bait as early as October for that. I think that it will be really valuable. I think creating an email content calendar for the holidays will be a surefire way to win. I think the next tip I wanted to provide you guys is really subject lines. So I had mentioned earlier in my presentation about the arrival of iOS 15, which will basically render open rates as obsolete. So that means that you'll lose a lot of historical important measures that have been determined when it comes to subject lines resonating. So for those of you who are not familiar with the iOS 15 update or just hearing about it for the first time, so basically what happens is that Apple will now have a feature that's called Protect Mail Activity feature. And so it will actually mask a user's activity, whether they interact with your email or when they don't at all. All emails will be marked as open, regardless if that individual opened the email or not. So therefore, it will be essential for you guys as retailers, and what we believe is to create holiday email subject lines and pre-header text that clearly reveal the email's content and grab that consumer's attention. I would also say test and be proactive with A/B testing variations of subject lines before the update hits. Test core automations, campaigns, or both, obviously, and send one email to half of your group and send the other email to a different group with a different subject line, just to test when it's all said and done. I think the third tip that I wanted to provide you guys as well is the focus of incorporating SMS and push notification. And you're going to hear a lot of great stuff from Postscript as well when it comes to SMS. But I think e-commerce merchants that are using omni-channel campaigns are rewarded. So what we found was about those merchants were seeing about a 287% higher purchase rate than those merchants that stuck to one single channel as their platform. And I think SMS and web push notifications can take you further than email alone. So especially with the abundance of messages that are hitting our subscribers, email accounts from November to December, I think these are two new channels that you could utilize. I think one of the key factors that we saw with SMS is that merchants are recognizing the potential of SMS, those that are doing it and are using and are really truly jumping on board. So in 2020, we saw that OmniSend customers sent about 378% more texts than they did in 2019, which led to an ultimately 100% year-over-year increase in conversions through that channel. I think the next channel, talking about push notification, I don't know how many of you guys utilize push notification, but I think the holiday season is ripe for taking advantage of push as a unique feature. Dabble by maybe offering incentives on the tentpole days, like it's great for Black Friday and marketing strategies, and maybe also ideal for Cyber Monday promotions as well. One pro tip that I would probably provide you guys when it comes to push notification is maybe create a pop-up about free shipping for visitors who examine your shipping and return policy. And then in fact, you can use that same incentive in a notification for those maybe who are browsing products, et cetera, and just adjust the language and visuals when it's all said and done. So I guess we can go to the next slide, if you don't mind. So again, just to poll the audience, I'd love to see what current ESPs you're using. Cool. And I don't know, Michael, if you're able, all of the above. That's awesome, guys. I think I don't know, Michael, if you can share that, if that's possible. Okay, perfect. That's great. Awesome. If we go to the next slide from that standpoint. So I think one of the key things, we've talked about some tips and tricks when it comes to, let's say, using channels, going early in the process for promoting holidays. I think the last tip I wanted to provide is really try to create that personalized experience and attention to your messaging. So segmentation is one of those things that will allow you to super target your subscribers and give them the perfect content that they want. So for example, you can segment your list by choosing customers that have purchased a product in the last 30 days if you wanted to. Those that regularly open or clicked on your emails, maybe if they're male or female from that standpoint. And so that way, by going highly targeted on that messaging, you can send them the targeted and irresistible offers that seem custom made to them based off their purchase experience. So customers will enjoy that personalized attention, and segmentation is a big step towards that. But that's all I've got from me on the OmniSend side. So I don't know if I have any time left for questions, but before I get into that, here's our offer for you guys to start your holiday marketing for the OmniSend, 30% off for 3 months on our standard or pro plans. Just use that code Justuno 30 times 3, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Amit. You may have some questions in the chat that you can answer if there are any, but thank you so much for going through all of that.
Perfect.
Next, we have Elaine from Loop, and she's going to talk to us about returns.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelsey. I'm trying to keep my head in this spot so you guys don't get blinded by this light that's behind me. This is awesome, man. I've learned so much from everybody so far. Just to let everyone who, as a participant here, like these are some really good panelists here. Like these guys are really smart. I'm here to talk to you guys about returns. So, what happens after the purchase and sort of, what to expect this year. And I think really, a lot of things that we've been talking about so far, it's all about the sales spike, right? What do we want to do to prepare for this sales spike? And returns is going to be a lagging indicator of your success from those sales. So historically, what we've seen, and Luke, we're a returns and exchange platform on Shopify Plus, just so you guys know. And so basically what we've seen, so when I say our data, gives you context where our data is coming from. The return season starts about 2 weeks after Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and kind of runs through the holiday and lasts until about 2 weeks after New Year's. And so the big thing that I would love for you guys to sort of take away is like you take away one thing from this little portion of the presentation, it's more volume equals more returns, which seems really intuitive, but it's not just any type of return. Specifically, it's going to be a lot of first-time buyers because you're getting a lot of new people to the site, and of those, there's also going to be a lot of gift purchases and gift returns as well. And so, what does this mean for you? This means actually typically a lot of wrong sizes as a return reason because of the number of new people, whether they're gift or it's for themselves, that are coming to the site. And this also, as a result of that, it really means that you're going to want to streamline the exchange experience specifically to retain as much of that revenue that you've made over BFCM and the holidays. And lastly, so that's 1, 2, lastly, optimizing for gift returns. Lots of people are going to be buying for people they know, family, friends, letting customers to return by zip code, change their delivery address, basically giving them a lot more ownership as the person who is coming into the returns portal to make adjustments as they see fit if they weren't the person who was actually executing on that purchase. And if we go to the next slide, I think basically the idea behind this is that, with all of the increased volume that you guys are going to be seeing over Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's important to remember that a return doesn't have to be a refund. So when we look at the lagging indicator of like the returns season, which is sort of about 2 weeks after, you want to make sure again that you're setting up a very automated, a very streamlined process that guides customers through something that doesn't jump straight to a refund, which means leaning very heavily on exchanges, especially size, color, variant exchanges, cross-product exchanges, as well as being able to just in general turn it into something that's back into a shopping experience. The more volume you have, the more this really matters. So this is important to make sure that you have queued up before you start seeing that volume, especially from so many new customers. And just to give you guys some context as well, again, this is all of our data. So what we typically see is intimates and swimwear, about 30% return rate. And if you guys are in any of these categories, like that, happy to chat through any of this. If your returns are exceptionally higher than this or lower, apparel and footwear, we see about 20% returns. And then a lot of other industries like cosmetics, electronic accessories, we see about 5%. Something important to note is that during Black Friday, Cyber Monday, again, this is over the entire year. The return rates are going to be increased over this period of time. Just so you guys know, about 52% of the returns on Shopify are because of sizing issues. And so that means that you can actually expect to receive especially a lot of exchange requests during this period of time that are specifically related to size. And the best way to manage that, because if someone has a wrong size, doesn't mean they don't like it, probably just means they want a new size. So again, just more ammo to really show you guys how important exchanges really are. I think I saw something pop up in the chat, which I'll get to right after this next slide, which is a poll. So, do you guys see returning something as a pain? And then we can see the results of that, but I can jump over to the next. Basically to let you guys know a stat that this is collected from Shopify as well. 92% of consumers have stated that they'll actually buy something again if the returns are easy. And so sometimes, okay, yeah, it's a mixed bag. Always, 31% of you guys, always a pain. Well, hopefully that won't be the case this season. I'll leave you guys off with a tip. Basically, again, with the increased volume, you're going to see there's 2 tips. One of them is here, but honestly, make exchanges as easy as possible, and make gift exchanges possible as well. You can combine the two, make gift exchanges as easy as possible. This is just going to make sure you're retaining as much of the revenue that you're actually making during the season, because there's so many amazing techs on this call. All of these things are going to make sure that you guys are optimizing and getting as many new people in the door as possible. And you definitely don't want to waste those people who come through and they actually need a purchase by having a bad returns experience. So again, you're going to retain more, you're going to cultivate more loyalty by optimizing this, continued post-purchase experience, which a lot of people neglect, I think. And you guys can, if you go to the next slide, feel free to email me. We are giving a promotion to anybody who's part of this, because all the awesome partners that are here, we love everyone here. First month is free. All of our contracts are long-term. So yeah, definitely shoot me an email. I'll put it in the chat. Happy to chat with anyone here and figure out how to help you guys this season. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Elaine. Really good thoughts on returns and refunds and exchanges. That's something that we have struggled with our clients on our side every year. So thank you so much for the insight. Next, we have Gorgeous, who's all about customer service, and Chris is going to fill us in on their holiday expectations. Chris?
Awesome. Can everybody see and hear me okay? You're good? Perfect. All right. Well, first of all, thanks so much, Justuno, for putting together a fantastic event. I feel like I get to hang out with my friends and talk about cool things, and so that's a pretty sweet job. So really excited to be presenting for Gorgeous today, which is an e-commerce help desk built entirely for D2C brands in the space to make delivering exceptional customer service the standard, not the exception. And so if you can hit next slides. Today, I'm going to be talking about what you can expect, certainly to finish this year heading into BFCM as it pertains to CX, but also looking forward. And so I thought about a lot of things to include here. Really, the best way I could describe it is, you can expect more and more brands to turn customer support and CX into a sales channel. And this should be obvious, but it hasn't really been adopted to this point yet. And so if you think about it in the e-commerce D2C world, it's rare to actually talk directly with a customer. We know as consumers ourselves, we don't really interact or talk to anybody like you would in a brick and mortar setting. And so it's a fantastic opportunity, certainly earlier on in the customer journey, to engage with them and then leverage all the insights that we obviously all have data on our customers to deliver this really personalized experience to help really drive them towards making a purchase. And so I have it shown here. You can expect, support. Most people think of it as this cost center only for problems that occur post-purchase. We want to flip the narrative and really enable our merchants to, yes, keep delivering exceptional support beyond the purchase, but earlier on in the cycle, really engage with them to drive conversions and upselling opportunities. And so what this means for brands with us today, it really means turning your support agents into sales reps. And I'll talk to a little bit about, the challenges of doing that, but also, how we can help. Engaging with your customers early in the journey. So obviously we have things like a live chat that can pop up on your website. It doesn't not just need to be for things like processing a return or a refund, which Elaine just eloquently showcased. Loop's a perfect tool for that. You can also engage with a live chat to say, hey, can we help you navigate you through this purchase? So that's really important as well. And then, as I mentioned, leveraging all the insights that we have. So if you could just go back to the, that slide. And so just the screenshot I have here is of our revenue dashboard. So we obviously track a lot of key support metrics like first response time, resolution time, et cetera. But we also track how much revenue you can generate inside of Gorgeous, which includes, how many opportunities you had, conversion rates. You can segment across, agents. You can segment across channels, so you can see how well your email, SMS, live chat, social media channels are performing. And the final thing I'll say about this slide before we move on is, once you've obviously been a customer of Gorgeous with, over a year plus, heading into this BFCM, you can look back at your historical data from previous BFCM seasons, both on your sales and success or support side. And you can say, crap, we kind of, S the bed, so to speak, on these key categories. We should really make sure that we have sufficient staffing. Let's make sure that we have some upselling motions in place so we can capitalize as much as possible for this upcoming season. Perfect. So the question here is what does the future of CS and e-commerce look like? Is that the next slide? Sorry. Can you go back a slide? Are we on the right deck here? Sorry, I'm just seeing something different on my screen. The next slide I have, that one. Perfect. And so a major theme is, we know as consumers ourselves, consumer expectations are sky high. And the simplest way I can say it is, as consumers, you know, from a CX standpoint, you really need to be striking the perfect balance of speed and automation and personalization. So you can't afford to give personalized messages doing everything in a manual fashion. That doesn't scale and it's clunky for your customers. But you also can't speed things too much where you sound like a robot and you're kind of losing touch. And so this chart here is showcasing an approach that we've taken at Gorgias, where we've gamified, you know, the performance of our brands that are using Gorgias, and we've categorized them into 5 different buckets, 5 being the best, 1 being the worst. And the metric we're using here is how fast are you actually responding to customers when they have an inquiry. So 10 minutes is the gold standard. This is kind of what Amazon has set the bar with. And the long story short is we have phenomenal data that shows the faster you're actually responding and answer your customers' questions, it has a massive impact on not only, you know, their satisfaction with you, but also on conversions, because a lot of these customers that are engaging with you are actually pre-sale. And so there's a tremendous opportunity there. And then the way you achieve this, basically getting to this level 5 support performance on the CX side, is through things like live chat, you know, automation tools, and then leveraging the customer data and insights, which is something that we put a premium on. Next slide there, perfect. So just a few quick tips here. Training your support team to identify these upselling opportunities and leverage the insights. You could be thinking, you know, I'm barely holding on as it is with the support team I have. How can I possibly add another task of them becoming sales reps? And the key thing there is to use a tool like Gorgias that can automate, you know, 30 to 50% of your entire support volume for these like monotonous, redundant tasks like where is my order? You shouldn't have to be answering those. So let's automate and completely wipe those off the table, and then free up bandwidth for your support team to focus on really pressing support issues, but also focus on sales opportunities. And so we have a poll here. And another key thing here is, you know, if you're in search of a support help desk solution, obviously for brands that are just starting out, maybe you don't feel the pain yet, or maybe with a larger brand, you're already using a help desk. So if you are in search of one, you can answer it here in the chat, and would love to chat with you if you are interested. But the main takeaway here is put a premium on automation and speed so you can set yourself up for scale, but also pivot towards, you know, really establishing this upselling motion where your, you know, support agents are starting to now have the mindset of also being sales agents as well. And that's it. And then the last slide here is just a special offer we have for anyone who's interested in checking out Gorgias. You know, you can reach me at chris@gorgias.com, and we can get you set up with 2 free months, which is all you'll need to see the benefits of using a tool like Gorgias. And thanks again to Justuno and the rest of the speakers for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Very insightful. Next, we have Evan from Postscript, who's going to talk to us about SMS.
Hey everyone, I'm super excited to be here today. And I actually feel like I've been teed up perfectly by both Amit and Chris for this one and what I'm about to talk about. But for those who don't know, Postscript is an SMS platform for Shopify brands. And what I really want to talk about today is sort of the major trend that we're seeing, or we're expecting to see, for Black Friday, Cyber Monday this upcoming year. And that's for conversational commerce to take center stage. And that's really why I said Chris really teed me up really well for this one. I swear we didn't plan to go back to back. It just kind of worked out this way. But I wanted to sort of define, first of all, what is conversational commerce? And to us, what that means is it's having this two-way interaction with the customer. And like Chris said, you know, it's really important. And it's something that we're starting to see a lot more within the space. And, you know, typically when we've seen sort of e-commerce brands or online shopping, a lot of the marketing has been sort of a one-way conversation. You're sending out an ad, they click on the ad, they go to a landing page, they go through that, they go to a PDP, they go to a cart, and they purchase. You send out an email, and typically, you know, again, they'll go through that same process of going to a collection page, going to a PDP, and it's impossible to sort of answer all of those questions. And we've actually found that SMS is the perfect channel to have these conversations with your customers. And the reason why it's a perfect channel is that if you think about how SMS is used in your day-to-day lives, it's really used to talk to friends and family, to have those conversations. And once you've been given the permission from the customer to actually enter that inbox, it allows them to actually feel free to text back to you, to start that conversation, and sort of really like have treat you like a person as a merchant, and rather than sort of just like a big brand. And what this means to you is, like Chris said, is you're able to turn prospects into customers, right? I think we have a great example here of one of our great brands, RecSpecs, where RecSpecs sells goggles for dogs. You can imagine putting a PDP like this together could be a little bit difficult, right? You think you can answer all of those questions, but sometimes some things are obviously going to slip through the cracks. And RecSpecs actually sent out a campaign, and they got responded to with questions like, our pup is 6 months old. At what age should we measure him? At what age should you start wearing these goggles? And they were able to actually send a picture in to the brand and allow them to sort of have this personalized experience. And this is something that you really wouldn't be able to do in an e-commerce experience otherwise, right? Without this two-way interaction. It's something that would be saved for a retail environment where you could go in and you could actually talk to an associate. And what this allows you to do is turn these prospects into customers. It allows you to turn anyone who's answering sort of these texts and having these two-way conversations to actually make sure that you're pushing them down the funnel, that you're giving them the information that they need to actually go and make that purchase and feel confident in buying from you. So the other thing is that this means you need to prepare your support team. You have to understand your FAQs. You have to understand, what is your return policy? Can you sort of prime the customer that, if a size doesn't fit, they can use loops to actually exchange the size? What's shipping timelines like? People are going to ask about discounts and if discounts apply to everything. Even if you have that information somewhere on your website, not everyone is actually going to come across that. And they feel like, it's nice to have that personal touch of having it sent your way. And then the last thing that we really like to focus on is list growth. So this doesn't relate directly to conversational commerce, but any SMS program is predicated on having a great list. This is a Justuno webinar. They are our favorite partners for list growth. They do an amazing job. So it's really, you want to make sure that you're scaling these interactions as much as you possibly can. And having a big list is actually going to be the best way to do that. Next slide. Awesome. So what we want to know, and it looks like we don't actually have the right answers here for the questions, so that's fine. But what we want to know, and sort of you can ask yourself is, how are you currently responding to your customers? Are you doing it through a help desk like Gorgeous? Are you doing it through SMS, like in the platform itself? Or are you treating SMS as a one-way channel right now? Sort of something to think about and something to sort of assess as you grow and scale. There's different options that work for different brands. Like Chris said, if you're on the smaller end, maybe it doesn't make sense to have a help desk right away, but it will as you grow and scale, and making sure that you have something integrated is sort of the best experience possible. Next slide. Perfect. So we're going to leave you guys with a few sort of tips. The first one being, we want to take advantage of keyword replies and autoresponders as much as possible. If we're pushing these two-way conversations, we want to make sure that we're not overloading your team with support requests. This is a really cool example of Lalo and what they've done in terms of having keywords set up and making sure that this can feel very conversational. So last year, Lalo sent out a text saying, hey, we have all these categories. Which one do you want to know specifically you can get a great discount for? And this created a two-way conversation that allowed the customer to actually feel like they had a unique personalized experience to them. But really on our back end, what we did is we set up automated keyword replies that would make sort of send this out instantly. It's important to note that we actually have sort of a link in that first message there that we sent out. Reason why that's important is we can't force people into how they want to behave on this channel. We want to give them the option, whether they want to click the right away to go to the sale or they want to have this interaction with us. And obviously you can connect with a help desk. They have great autoresponder tools. I've helped out many merchants of ours sort of set up Gorgeous, set up the autoresponders, do some cool things with automated shipping and automated text on that way. And just to sort of wrap things up here, just want to make sure that we're sort of like driving home the idea of that it's important to have these FAQs ready, that quick responses can make or break a sale. That 10-minute, that 5-minute response time, especially on SMS, is just so important. It allows you to sort of think about, getting R-bombed by your friend sucks. No one likes to have that happen. So the quicker that you can get back to people, that's the channel to actually do it on. People expect those quick responses. So make sure your team is prepared accordingly. And if you guys are interested in trying out SMS, trying out our platform, you can email me at evan@postscript.io, and we'll do for a 2-month free trial and also a free SMS audit to sort of give you our opinions on what are best practices for campaigns, for segmentations, for automations to make sure that you have the best SMS program possible.
Awesome. Thanks, Evan. Always insightful whenever you join one of our webinars. Next, we have Bob from Gatsby, and he's going to be talking about using influencers during the holiday season.
Thanks, Kelsey. Thanks to Justuno for putting this together, and excited to be here with such a great panel. So we're going to talk about influencer marketing and what we've seen so far this year and what you can expect going into the second half of 2021 here. And that's a big market shift from traditional influencer marketing, more towards a more customer-focused approach. And you can check out the 2 posts I pulled there that are pretty recent to the right. So at the top, you have Tasha there, from The Bachelorette, now hosting The Bachelor. She's got 1.8 million followers, and that this is an influencer post from her, but really low engagement. And that's typical for that sort of like celebrity for hire route. So 1.8% engagement there. And you can contrast that to the one below, which is a customer post. So this is a customer of Famous Footwear. Famous Footwear is taking this more customer-centric approach to it. And even though the woman on the bottom has 1.5K followers, the authenticity is way higher, and people are seeing, upwards of 10% engagement rate there. And the overall shift is it's a lot better to have an army of customer advocates as opposed to going down that traditional expensive sort of celebrity for hire approach. So what does this mean for you? So with ad prices going up, we've seen that happen for the first half of the year there, and also we expect targeting to continue to go down. Influencer marketing, especially your customer base, is actually a much more attractive third option there for acquisition. So Facebook and Google Ads, you kind of have that duopoly right now in terms of, all right, what can I turn on to acquire new customers? Customer-focused influencer marketing is becoming much more appealing and easier to do because the barriers to entry are already quite low. These are folks that already know your brands, they already use your products, they love you. The biggest problem that we're trying to solve is that brands might have 100,000 folks or thousands of folks of just historic customers in their database, but they have no idea of their customers that are using their products, who's influential. And it's really important for a brand to know that, especially ahead of time going into the holiday season, so that when you are doing that big push, you're ready to go. You have your most loyal customers that have some level of influence ready to advocate for you. And it's just a much less expensive and more effective approach to it. So we'll go to the next slide. And this I'm really curious about. So which networks are your customers most active in? And it could be multiple. I'm just curious what the chat has to say there. Throw something in chat, do the poll. Just curious. And we'll see what the overall results there are. I have a feeling everyone's got some customers. Yeah, I figured everyone's got some type, some customer base on Instagram. Facebook being popular. Surprised no one voted for TikTok. It's an interesting one because it really depends. It's a different audience there. And then we have some for Twitter, Pinterest, and other there, which is cool to see. We'll go to that. Yeah, perfect. So how do we do this? I want to talk about like the tactical side of it, because our approach, it's not something a lot of brands think of out of the box. And that's actually collecting social handle from customers throughout the buyer's journey. And this is always kind of a preference, but wherever you want to do this, wherever you think it'd be most appropriate to say, hey, we'd love it if you gave us your Instagram handle, for example. So you can see on the right there, Volcom, they have it in their welcome pop-up. If you go to their site right now, that's a Justuno welcome pop-up where they really want to know that handle as quickly as possible. If you're of level of influence, if you're at least over 1,000 followers, the customer experience really does change. So they try to capture that as early as possible. You could contrast that to Pair of Thieves there. It's a Target brand at the bottom where they're asking for the handle on order confirmation. So you just checked out, get more involved with us and give us your handle here. And it's never too late to start doing this. We actually see a lot of merchants, even if they have 50,000 folks in their database and they've never been asking for handle, We also recommend you can create a landing page too, and just let your customer base, say anyone that's made a purchase in the last 12 months, let them know that they can get more involved in the community, get special access to something by giving their handle. It's just a very quick way to bubble up. Okay, of my customer base, like who's at least above 1,000 followers, kind of in that sweet spot, 1 to 20K in that micro influencer range. That could be a great advocate that I never knew I had without doing this. But capturing handle is great, but you can't really do anything with it unless you're using something like Gatsby. So in terms of what to expect, if you go to the next slide there. So 25 to 40% of everyone that's giving their handle will actually have over 1,000 followers. We do have brands too that sometimes say anyone with at least over 500 can still get involved, even if you just want to politely ask them to post. It's great to have that conversation with them. And the most important part of this is that you can use these insights throughout all the technology that you're already using, like Klaviyo, Gorgeous, Yotpo, all of that. And I think I saw in the chat when Chris was speaking a question for Gorgeous, like what is the future of like support, for example? And that is turning that bottom of the funnel conversation not only into sales, but it's also a great opportunity to ask for a post. When someone rates a ticket 5 stars, let's ask them to post about us, maybe in exchange for a discount or something like that if you want to incentivize it. So Gorgeous, great use case there. And then of course in ESPs like OmniSend and Klaviyo, great to just have that data in there so that you can reach out to folks that do have the level of influence you're looking for and get them involved. And I think like the most important part of this is because they're actual customers of yours, they're usually more than excited to even get a discount or something off their next order in exchange for a post, as opposed to the traditional route where it's outbound, that person's probably never used your product before, you're going to pay for the post, and that's kind of it. So wanted to highlight this approach to it, especially before going into the holiday season, so you can get ready. And just a final offer here, if you want to give Gatsby a try, we'll give you 30% off your first 3 months. You can go month to month with us. And if you want to see some more live customer examples, shoot me an email. Happy to jump on a call and show you how our customers are using us. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. That was awesome. Next, we have Refersion from Shakima, and she is going to be talking about affiliate marketing.
Hi, everyone. Once again, Shakima at Refersion. If you're unfamiliar with Refersion, Refersion is a performance marketing platform that allows brands to track the performance of their affiliates, influencers, and brand ambassadors. This year, I expect to see a lot of social media shopping, especially since last year with COVID, that shifted businesses to really rely on digital commerce. Some businesses did like a hybrid model where it's shop in line, pick up curbside. Either way, consumers are definitely going to be shopping online this year. eMarketer forecasts that 34.8% of retail sales are going to be on social commerce. While this stuff does represent a small segment of e-commerce, it still shows how social commerce is moving forward. User-generated content and visual media are definitely going to be key for selling on social media, especially if you think about it, you already use Instagram, you already use Facebook. So translating some of that engagement that you already have into purchases and conversions is pretty much a no-brainer. You can go to the next slide. So of course, while your business can influence your own customers with your content, influencer marketing is also helping to drive social commerce forward. In a survey by Global Web Index, they found that 70% of internet users who watched a live stream of an influencer were likely to purchase from them. I actually personally, recently, I was watching an influencer on YouTube for motorcycle gear, and as a woman, it is very hard to find gear specifically made for women's bodies. It's all men's gear because mainly men are riding motorcycles. But since I saw that this woman did have gear, it was safe, it influenced me to go find brands that made gear for women. So I definitely believe that influencer marketing combined with social commerce is effective, especially since influencers do have loyal audiences. They share the same interests as the influencer. and their content is seen by those people and they trust their opinions, they trust their recommendations, so they're likely to go and buy. And going back to Bob's point on like, we don't mean like the celebrity influencers, we're talking about those smaller micro influencers who are a little bit more intimate with the brand and they actually use the products and it's not something that they were asked or paid to do one time. And those creators can influence social media purchases with how-to videos, just lifestyle vlogs where they're just going through life, wearing it, or using a product if it's something that's not something to wear, like plants, growing those plants. And of course, live streams are really effective. You can move on to the next. With that, that leads me to our poll question of, do you currently have an affiliate, influencer, or brand ambassador program in place for your business? Oh, nice. Glad to see that some of you do. Well, whether you do have a program or you don't, you can have your own influence on your customers' buyer decisions on these social platforms by getting creative. That means using a variety of content formats to help bring your products to life. In the examples to the right, in the center particularly, this brand used a little bit of humor to showcase their products without directly selling them, but engaging their audience. Further right to that, there's a little bit of a preference poll like, hey, do you like light or dark? It doesn't really matter what the customers choose. It's getting their product out there without actively selling it, but still exposing it for discovery purposes. And if you do have an affiliate, influencer, or brand ambassador program, and you're selling on social media and you're using these influencers to help drive these purchases forward, you can give them a coupon code so that you can track their sales and see their real-time conversions if you use that with a performance marketing platform in conjunction with your own social selling efforts. You can. That's about it for me. Our offer, there's a link you have to click on for this offer, but once it's posted in the chat, you can get a special price of $129 a month or 1.5% of affiliate sales, whatever is greater, so that you can run your influencer, ambassador, or affiliate program on Refersion. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Shakima. Awesome information about using social media. Next, we have Savannah from Shopping Gives, and she's going to be talking to us about donating as a brand.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Kelsey, for that intro. As she mentioned, I am Savannah. I'm the head of partner success at Shopping Gives, and I'll be chatting with you a little bit about what we're expecting to see as far as impact through the holidays. I would love to actually start with the poll if we can go to the next slide and bring that up. Curious to see how many of you guys tuning in today already have plans to implement some form of charity or giving through the holiday season, just so we can get a read on who's thinking about Giving Tuesday in addition to Black Friday and Cyber Monday. And if we can share that, that'd be awesome. While we're collecting those, oh, good, yay, most people are planning, so that's great. We are expecting to see consumers looking to make an impact during Cyber Week and through the holiday season. As I'm sure we all know, this past year brought a lot of attention to deserving causes such as the pandemic, Black Lives Matter movement, and ending AAPI hate. Consumers are very vocal about what matters most to them, and they expect to see the brands that they support reflecting those values and taking a stand as well. And that kind of want from customers is not going away anytime soon. That's why we built Shopping Gives. To keep it as simple as possible, we enable brands to give back so they can focus on the good that they're doing rather than how they're going to go about doing good. So we take care of all of regulation for you as well as the collection and disbursement so that you can just focus on the mission that you want to kind of move forward. We've also seen that doing good means doing well, and that brands that give back have more loyal and more generous customers. So when you give more, you make more, and then you can give back even more. An endless cycle of good. For what we're seeing over the holiday, customers really want you guys to be taking a stand and also being authentic, engaging, and measuring that impact for them as well. So those are kind of our top tips. If you're new to giving back, we always say to lead with authenticity. You have kind of 4 key pillars you want to be looking at as a brand as you're building out your CSR strategy, and those will be your product, community, team, and customer. So if you're a stationery brand, for example, perhaps you want to give back to plant trees because you're using that resource. Once you have a giving strategy in mind, it's really important that you stay honest and consistent with it. Our customers today are really, really smart, so they're going to sniff out if you guys are pandering. They want to make sure that you're being honest about your giving. So it's really important to remain authentic rather than just hopping on the bandwagon of giving. Speaking from the holiday perspective, that means perhaps starting to give right from Thanksgiving through Giving Tuesday rather than saving Giving Tuesday as your giving day solely. Next, you want to make sure you're engaging with your customers. So mention your giving in advance so they know when to expect it and know what to expect. Also, you've heard from a lot of great partners and tech today that talks about SMS and messaging on site, influencers. How can you get all of these pieces involved in your giving messaging? Do your influencers want to share a cause that matters most to them? Are you going to send a text on Giving Tuesday mentioning how much you guys are giving back, or even keep customers abreast of how much you guys have given? Really a lot of ways to include impact throughout the holidays. Kind of segueing into finally measuring what matters there. So your customers might see a $1 donation as a part of their purchase, but really show them that their micro actions lead to macro impact. So if you raise $10,000, but they only see $1 of it on their order, make sure you're sharing that after the fact. And internally as a team, you can celebrate the lifts in average ordered value and conversion rate that we've seen time and time again with customers. Those with our customers, the end user shoppers who are buying with you and donating multiple times are going to be those most valuable customers who are coming back to spend more. And it really is a differentiator for you as a brand to be giving back a portion versus other brands who might not be doing any giving at all. Some quick tips for you as well. We can, go right here. So first, on that authenticity piece, always make sure you're giving as a brand before you ask your customer to give back. It's not really going to read very well if you're saying, hey, thank you for spending $100+ with us. Why not add on $1 and we'll donate it? You really want your customers to be joining you in giving. So always say, we give 1% of every order. Your purchase is already giving back this much. If you want to add on to that, throw in a couple more dollars or round up your donation, but always make sure that as a brand, you're giving first so that your customer can see that authenticity shining through. Second, if you don't know where to give your customer options. So if you wanted to give the option of animal rights, the LGBTQ community, and a sustainability cause, see where your customers are choosing. That can kind of help build where your strategy goes from there as well. If most of your customers are giving for sustainability, that's kind of a clue to you that Earth Month is going to be pretty pivotal for you next year. Or if your customers are really focused on LGBTQ, maybe you should expand that giving message beyond just June. So really pay attention. There's some great pieces of reporting for you on there too. With our integration, you have all of this turnkey from collection and distribution, like I mentioned, the regulation and all of that reporting that's available to you through our app. If we skip ahead to the offer as well, getting started early is the best way to kind of get a move on, especially because if you throw giving at your customer right into the holiday, they might miss it, and you want to make sure you're messaging that early. So our team can help you with the strategy and kind of ongoing giving throughout the year as well. There was a link just dropped in chat that you can check out, but you can always reach me as well. It's Savannah with one N and an H at Shopping Gives.
Awesome. Thanks, Savannah. Really appreciate you hopping in today. There's still room in the chat. We still have some of our panelists here. So if you have any questions that you thought of before or need answers, you can still go into chat. I don't think I introduced myself at the beginning. My name's Kelsey. I am the Director of Customer Success here at Justuno. We have a couple of quick tips and things to go over for the holiday season. If you've joined our holiday hustle in the past, you know what's about to happen. Just a quick statistic. 74% in a survey that Justuno ran said that they plan to shop online. In comparison to last year, even with COVID, this number has gone up in comparison to what we've seen in the past. So that means that your e-commerce store, even if you do have a brick and mortar, is just as important this year. Next slide, please. Just a quick best practices for CRO during the holiday season. Make sure that you plan to stand out. Not only are you running your e-commerce store, but all of your competitors are. People look for deals, so make sure that you're putting out a deal that's competitive. Consider using a free gift or a gift card as an option rather than a discount if you are a discount light brand. Start collecting emails now. You'll want to do this in September or October. Grow your list so you can spend more time there and less time on ad spend, and spend ad spend now to help drive people to that list. You can use copy like sign up to let us know, so we can let you know when our sales start, or sign up for early access, which you can do all through the UTMs. Make sure that you're also giving the option for email or SMS. I think someone said this at the beginning. Email is still the biggest driver for how people want to be communicated with, but SMS is making its run for its money. So make sure that you're giving people the option to be communicated with the way they want to be communicated with. And make sure that you keep it simple over Cyber 5. People are overloaded with information, emails, on-site messaging, all of it. So make sure that you're stating what your deal is clearly and simply, and making sure there's the least amount of obstacles between when someone lands on your site and when someone is at the checkout page. Beyond getting the purchases, remember to avoid A/B testing. This is not your typical visitors. So any information you find during this time is not going to be helpful for the rest of the year. You can also use Justuno for important messages. This is a good time to talk about what we heard before, refunds and returns and exchanges. That's important messaging that your visitors need to know about. So having a pop-up that allows them to easily find that on your website post-Christmas is very helpful. And if you're not running any sales, or you're not a sale-driven or basic product-driven company or site, consider just giving your promotions a holiday theme. It creates a loyalty and a personalization, even if everyone's seeing the same Thanksgiving or fall themed promotion, that lets them know that you're active on your site and you're actively updating your messaging. Next slide, please. When you're planning, I just wanted to give you guys 2 quick reminders. Mobile shopping on cell phones and tablets has increased over the last 2 years. So don't forget your mobile promotions. Make sure that you design them with care. You're making sure they're the right size and that the buttons are properly sized. A good thing to think about is if you have an iOS device, if anything's smaller than 14 pixels, like buttons or text, if you tap it, the phone automatically zooms in. It's not a good user experience. So make sure you're thinking of these things when you're designing your promotions. Don't forget that long-term deals are trending. We saw a lot of big box companies and smaller brands use them last year, and using it with a message of spend time with your friends and family and shop when you can is a really good way to increase brand loyalty. Next slide, please. Holiday timeline, make sure that you're completing your holiday planning, knowing what you're going to be doing by September 15th. Your holiday lead capture can go live in between the 15th and by October 1st. All promotions built and scheduled by the 19th. That's the Friday before Black Friday. And remember to pinpoint your last shipping date before Christmas. I did a little bit of research. It's not all out there yet, but it's looking like it's going to be between the 16th and the 18th of December. And that's information that your visitors would need. So that's another reason to run a banner, making sure people know that if they want it before Christmas, they need to order by this date. And remember, returns information should be live on the 26th, even though in some different parts of the world, that's still a holiday. You want to make sure that it's available to everyone who is not either, visiting family or still getting gifts. They have the opportunity to start looking at how the returns or exchange process works. Next slide, please. Finally, we talk about this every year, questions to ask. These are the questions. If you don't know where to start, and you're in a good spot, because if you don't know where you're starting, getting started early is a really good idea. Questions to ask yourself: what is your overall goal for the holiday seasons? Is it conversions? Is it purchases? Or are you looking to build your list or increase your SMS list at the same time? Did you do anything last year that really worked, or anything that didn't? Starting with what you've previously done is always a good spot. Making sure that you're analyzing how your site has performed in the past. What sales will you run and when? Very obvious, but it's still a question to ask, and ask your team. And what do your customers need to know beyond sale information? I think this is something that a lot of people skip, but it's a good thing to think about during the holiday season. The better customer service and the better you provide information to your visitors during that time is going to create repeat buyers. Next slide. Finally, get a free CRO audit and a 15% off your plan in July by signing up for a free trial. If we have a link, I believe Katie from our team will be posting that. And then finally, we just have a quick poll. Which partners today would you like to hear from the most? If you guys can just fill this out for us, it's super helpful information. We appreciate your time. Thanks for sticking with us. I know we're 11 minutes over. So thank you so much and have a great rest of your day and good luck on the holiday season.
Thank you, everyone.